The following Castlebar traders wish Castlebar Mitchells every success in the All-Ireland Football Club Championship Final on St Patrick's Day.
The Brafey House Resort Castlebar, the #1 wedding day specialists. Look us up on Facebook.
From bathroom products to underfloor heating, from kitchen sinks to solar panels, Hurst Heating and Plumbing, Moneen Road, Castlebar.
The Linen Hall, where it all started for Castlebar Mitchells, Linen Hall Arts Centre, Castlebar.
Castlebar Town, standing proud behind Mitchells in the All-Ireland Final.
Last week I told you about Club 51, which is a supporters group that was set up in the aftermath of last year's All-Ireland Final in order to kind of increase the green and red around the county grounds. Joining me on the line now is Anne-Marie Flynn from the group. Anne-Marie, welcome to the show.
Hi Mike, how are you?
Very good now, and yourself?
Good, not too bad at all now, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
No problem at all. Now, the Club 51, as I said, it was set up in the aftermath of the All-Ireland last year when we were all a bit kind of despondent and in the aftermath of the result, and we needed something to cheer us up.
Yes, that's exactly it, yeah. A few of us got together after the All-Ireland last year when morale was low and there was a lot of, I suppose, wailing and gnashing of teeth and a general air of disappointment around the place. So with that in mind, a few of us got together over on MayoGAAblog.com and talked about setting up a group that would just, I suppose, improve the atmosphere at Mayo games, try and do our bit off the pitch to the same high standards as the boys are doing on the pitch, and that's really the aim and the ethos behind it.
Yeah, and I've seen the flags now at the games. I've seen Michael May from Swinford with the Club 51 flags and getting supporters' pictures taken and that. It seems like it's been a success so far. Yeah,
so far so good. It's early days, yes, but there are four of us kind of behind the scenes doing the admin stuff. There's myself, there's Michael May, as you mentioned, Mark Tower from Castlebar, and Robert Bashford, who's actually based in Germany. So, and there's a wider group as well as that, just contributing on the Facebook site and the Twitter and all that kind of thing. So we've quite a good online presence, and yeah, so far so good. It seems to be taking off. There's a good appetite for it, and we've had meetups before the games, before the away games as well, and there's been a really good turnout. So it's really encouraging, and it's really just about bringing the fun back into it, and getting people out there and wearing their colours and just being proud to be a Mayo supporter. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, it's certainly something you see, particularly when you go to a Dublin game, as we would have seen in the All-Ireland last year, when the hill is just a sea of blue and they have the Heffo's Army and all that, and it's great to have something on our side that we can do in a similar vein.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the hill last year, while it was, there was a good proportion of green and red on the hill last year, which was great, but at the same time, I think Dublin supporters in particular, they just bring it to that extra level of noise and colour, and the Heffo's Army banner last year was really iconic as well, so we kind of set out to do something like that with that in mind, and it's really, I suppose it's just as well about being the 16th man. Sometimes when things might not be going so well, that's when the crowd really needs to get behind the team. So that's something we're very much bearing in mind as well.
Well, that's actually just when you say about the crowd getting behind the team. I know I was talking to you on Twitter and that during the week about this, the incident with Robbie Hennelly last Sunday, when the crowd actually turned on one of their own players. What did you make of that?
That's right, yeah. To be honest, from where I was sitting, Mike, I don't know if they turned on him as such. I think it all seemed pretty good natured from where I was sitting, but I think there was that stage where the crowd were like, look, Robbie's normally, he's superb normally, I would never fault Robbie, but I think at this stage the crowd just wanted to see Freeman have a go at it, and I don't think it was the crowd turning on him as such. I think it was applauding Freeman for just taking the initiative, making that decision to take the free, and sure enough he followed through on it. So to be honest, I think it was more good-natured than anything else from where I was, but I can see how people might question it as well. Yeah,
because I know just around where I was sitting anyway, and obviously what you hear around you is what you hear more than what's further away, and it was I wouldn't have said it was good natured, at least not the few people around me, but I suppose when you can kind of understand frustrations when a player misses a few frees, but at the same time
you can but
exactly, people need to remember that they're amateur and all that, but he's the moment, and we also desperately want to beat Kerry at any stage that any little fault,
we want to be taking every opportunity we can. I think there probably was a sense of frustration around that, but I do think as well, you make a bigger point there about remembering that the players are amateur. It's very easy for us, I suppose, as armchair supporters to sit back and criticise, but these guys are going out, they're giving their all, they're sacrificing a good portion of their own time and their social life, and obviously there are rewards, but at the end of the day, the reward they get for that, is relatively small, and I think we're all very much on the same side. We all want to see Mayo win, Sam, and it's just important to remember that these guys, do put in a lot of time, and they do put in a lot of work, and sometimes they get rather harshly criticised, and it's not merited. It's not fair. And again, with Club 51, we wanted to bring back an air of positivity and be supporters, not just fans, but actually be supporters and understand what being a supporter and getting behind your team means.
Yeah, and I assume we'll all be heading along to Mullingar tomorrow. Is there a meeting point before the game?
Yes, indeed there is. We're meeting in the Greville Arms on Pierce Street, which is about maybe 500 metres from the ground, from what I understand, and the guys there have organised a bit of finger food, so everyone is welcome to turn up. We'd really like to see people come out and hop in and say hello and wear your colours.
Well, that's what we'll be hoping for, particularly in an away game is when you really want to see the colours, you want to outnumber the home fans.
Yes, indeed. And I think so far away support at the Mayo games has been really, really good. We're up in Omagh and over in Newbridge, and it's really good to see such a strong crowd coming out to support the team, even in venues like that. So it's really positive, and I think there is kind of an air of quiet positivity around the ground. We've had a couple of shaky games, but I think generally the consensus is that now is the time to try out new players, do new things, do a bit of experimentation, and now is the time to knuckle down, I suppose, and start getting the wins.
Exactly. And how do you think the game's going to go?
Tomorrow, I would be relatively confident that we can take the win. I don't think it'll be a hammering, as people are suggesting, but, I think we do need to be wary. Westmeath have a fairly powerful forward line in particular, so that's where our much vaunted defence is going to have to come into its own. But I think, there's... it's good to see the likes of Mikey Sweeney coming on tomorrow making a start, Donny Vaughan making his first start as well, and Enda Varley as well getting his first start after last week's performance. Yeah,
Varley in particular, when he came off the bench last week, he was brilliant. So he
made a great impact. Yeah, and I think now he has a point to prove as well, to get out there and to try and claim that place. And it's good to see a bit of competition in that area of the pitch as well. So,
it is, and it's good to see the players, if they have a point to prove, that they are actually going out and trying to prove that point. They're not sulking.
Exactly. And I think Freeman is the finest example of that. I think he just put in a spectacular performance last week, and it's just brilliant to see. So hopefully that competition in the squad and the panel continues as well. That everyone's a winner then.
Exactly, yeah. Well, Anne-Marie, that's brilliant. Hopefully now we can get more people out to the Club 51 events and get more people out in their colours and cheering on the Mayo team.
Everyone is welcome to come out, stand with us in the grounds, make a bit of noise, get behind the team, and that's really it. So we have our own website. So it's mayoclub51.com, and you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Mayo Club 51.
Very good, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much and enjoy the game.
Great, thanks very much for having me on, Mike. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.
We will indeed. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The following Castlebar traders wish Castlebar Mitchells every success in the All-Ireland Football Club Championship Final on St Patrick's Day.
Unit 7 Menswear, Main Street, Castlebar have a large range of suits from only €99.
For a fantastic choice of quality meats at great prices, shop at the Family Butchers, Anthony Lenihan, Linen Hall Street.
Citroen and Kia, quality brand motoring from Conway Motors, Brafey Retail Park.
Castlebar Town, standing proud behind Mitchells in the All-Ireland Final.
Joining me now in the studio is Jonathan Morley from our sports department. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Same as myself, you were at the Mayo and Kerry game last Sunday. What did you think?
Yeah, I was quite happy with the overall performance. Mayo were quite good. For the duration of the game, I was especially happy with some performances in the Mayo team, and I think it's something to build on now, and hopefully they can beat Westmeath tomorrow. But I was quite boosted by the performance.
Yeah, the subs coming off the bench in particular really seemed to win the game for Mayo. Like Seamie O'Shea done very well when he came on. Donal Vaughan and Varley in particular was immense. He won every ball that went into him.
Yeah, that's true. Varley got a few crucial points as well, and Varley came on and he played quite well. Seamus O'Shea is going to have his work cut out to keep a spot in the squad, because Jason Gibbons was quite good for the time he was on.
Did you think so?
Yeah.
Firstly, I'd have to disagree. I was quite happy to see Gibbons going off the last day. I didn't think he brought much now. I think either midfielder could have been taken off at the time that Gibbons went off. Aidan O'Shea wasn't great up to that point, but after Seamie came on, maybe it's the brotherly thing. Aidan upped his game, and he didn't lose any ball in the second half. He didn't give anything away, and he kind of stopped carrying the ball into the tackle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the big brother
Maybe you know, it'll be interesting to see who Horan is going to pick for tomorrow's game.
He's picked Gibbons and O'Shea in midfield.
Gibbons, okay, yeah. So that's it's either saying that he thinks Gibbons should be starting in that team, or either he might be saying, well, O'Shea's not fully fit yet. But I'm not sure which one that is.
I would say it's probably the latter. I'd say it's probably O'Shea's not 100% fit, and as well, he knows what O'Shea can give. I mean, at the start of the season, you know, the midfield pairing is the two O'Shea's. It's up to Gibbons, Barry Moran when he comes back to break into that and to break up the two O'Shea's. So I think that's why he's given Gibbons the chance to keep going, because he knows what Shamey can offer.
Yes.
So if you can give Gibbons more game time than later in the season when it comes to having to bring him on, you know that he's going to be up for it. Because last year I think Gibbons only played about 20 minutes in the entire championship because he just didn't know what he was going to bring, because he didn't get the time in the league. This time around it's the other way.
Yeah,
hopefully, you know, and we'll be able to see what he can do. I did speak to James Horan after the game alongside the rest of the press, and here's what he had to say.
Look, it was just about getting 2 points today, and I didn't care how we did it in one way, to be honest, but we got the 2 points. We were poor in some things. The scores Kerry got in the first half were way too easy. You know, every time we looked like we were you know, getting momentum, we let them back with an easy score, but we kept at it and kept plugging away, and you know, the game was still in the balance with 10-12 minutes to go, and you know, we finished very strong, which is very encouraging.
After Stephen O'Brien getting that great goal, Kerry were back in it again, weren't they?
Yeah, it was a good goal. He got around Calf and placed it very well, and he was a threat to us all day. And but look, we kept at it. There was no panic, and we played the ball round. And even though we were making lots of mistakes, we kept at it, and eventually, you know, deserved winners in the end. Yeah, we got a great start, and that's good. And you know, we've been creating 7 or 8 goal chances every game. We played, so we know we're creating chances. So it's about taking them and taking the right shot when they come along. So you know, Alan Freeman got a great goal starting off, and you know, that was key to our momentum. Well, look, today's was about 2 points, and we got those. A lot of good things, a lot of rusty things, and look, we'll be bouncing in on Tuesday night, and we'll be looking forward to next weekend now.
It's good to have Donald Vaughan and Seamus O'Shea back after injury and surgery over the winter.
Yeah, and you saw the immediate impact they had when they came on. They set it up for us, and Shamey gave some great ball in, and you saw the difference Enda Varley made. Actually, when he came on, he won pretty much every ball, I'd say, that was kicked in, and you know, the subs made a huge impact for us today. Yeah, it's tough, but Kerry had 4 last year, so they'll be okay. But yeah, it's tough. You want to get a couple of points on the board, because it impacts on what you do with training in the following week, or what you need to work on and that kind of stuff. So you know, 2 points for us was great. Yeah, Killian O'Connor's very close, so we've strong competition now for places. We're down to, the injury list is down to 2 from 10 or 12 earlier on in the year. So you know, things are coming together.
Now, as James says there, Jonathan, Killian O'Connor very close to coming back. I was surprised to see Killian on the sideline last week. I had heard from a very close source that it'd be the Dublin game before he'd be back, so he's obviously ahead of schedule.
Yeah, it's great news for Mayo and, well, for the whole squad, you know, because I think, you know, you look at the likes of Neil Gallagher and, Adam Gallagher and, Conroy and Varley and, Freeman, who was very, very good last week. You know, Freeman was excellent last week, and I was very happy with his performance. But you look at some of them, such as Gallagher, and he has put in a few good performances, but you kind of say, is he good enough? And I think I'm not sure. You know, it's kind of you know, you look at it and you kind of say to yourself, well, is he good enough for Mayo? And, you know, to start in that team. And from what I saw of him, and I've seen every game of him, you know, so far in the National Football League, and I haven't really been convinced. So I think it's great to see Killian back. You know, it's massive. You know, and he won't be back for tomorrow, obviously, but he'll probably be back towards the end of the campaign.
Well, I'd imagine the Dublin game is probably still the one that they'll target maybe for a start from the very beginning, you know, but I'd imagine he'd probably be on the bench tomorrow. He wasn't named on the bench last week, but obviously we've seen him down warming up, and James Horan did say after the match that Killian was there. He's almost ready to come back. I think Alan Dillon and Chris Barrett are the only players left that are, you know, on long-term injury, which is great to see, because I think at one point there was, between Mitchell's players, Kiltane players and injuries, there was 20 players unavailable. Like, that's down to 2 injuries, and the Mitchell's players will obviously won't be available till after the club final. Is it on Monday week? So it'll be good when they've all them back, and you have lads like Adam Gallagher's been getting a bit of game time, Jimmer O'Connor, Stephen Cohen, get Enda Varley back in there. It's shaping up to have a strong squad coming into the last few games of the league and into the championship.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, you said there about Alan Dillon being injured and Chris Barrett, and Chris Barrett is a good player to have in the squad. He pushed for a starting spot last year, and he did start in a few big games. But Alan Dillon is somebody who just wasn't good enough in the latter part of last season, and I really wouldn't like to. In my point of view, I wouldn't put him in that starting 15.
No,
no way.
Why is that?
Well, you look at the semi-final last year against Tyrone, and he wasn't really one of the standout players. But then the final, it all comes down to it, and the big players have to stand up and be counted, like Aidan O'Shea and all Mayo's big players. And Alan Dillon was just not good enough that day, and it was the same case in the All-Ireland final against Donegal 2 years ago. When you get to the big stage, as I said, you need your big players to stand up, and he just didn't, and I personally would not like to see him back in that starting 15.
The following Castlebar traders wish Castlebar Mitchells every success in the All-Ireland Football Club Championship Final on St Patrick's Day.
Dressing your child for that special occasion this summer? Call into Fahey's on Main Street, Castlebar.
When it comes to your health and looking your best, your one and only pharmacy, John O'Donnell Pharmacy, Ellison Street, Castlebar.
Need a part for your vehicle? Joe's the man to see you right at Mayo Motor Parts, Moneen Industrial Estate, Castlebar.
Castlebar Town, standing proud behind Mitchells in the All-Ireland Final.
Martin Kearney is still with me in studio now. We're going to have a look ahead to the big match tomorrow between Mayo and Westmeath. Martin, Mayo got a good win last week against Kerry. Were you impressed with the performance and the victory?
Oh, I was indeed. Very impressed with the performance. Very impressed with the overall effort. A number of very good performances. Obviously, Alan Freeman with his goal in 5 up front probably got the headlines. But I thought around him, I hadn't seen Jason Doherty playing in a wing forward position before this, but I was very impressed with him. He ended up, I think, a goal and a point or goal and 2 points, but I thought his work rate, his tackling and his energy levels were very, 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 very impressive. And it was lovely to see Lee Keegan back in form, seemed to, played very well. Colin Boyle played very well. And at the end of the match, you had the reunification of that half-back line that has been a real springboard for us up to now. And that cornerback, I know that he's not cornerback this weekend, but I thought Keith Higgins was outstanding at cornerback the last day.
Yeah, he was. I felt the same myself. As soon as I seen him starting at cornerback, I was delighted, because to me that is his position.
Yeah, well, I'd be of that opinion that probably is the best position he has. And again, I know I'm harping back to the Interpro, but we had him for the final of the Interpro, and he was superb there. I think he got 2 wonderful points in that game. And again, I just think it's the strongest position. But again, James Horn and Donny Buckley and Tom Prendergast have their own ideas as to how the team should evolve. Ultimately, I think he'll end up there for a championship, and maybe they're just looking at options. I think what they're looking at really by putting him up there is to get a bit of pace into the forward line. It might be the one area that we are not overly blessed in, is real raw pace, and maybe Keith provides that. But he'll be centre half forward tomorrow. But it's interesting, actually, the recall of Enda Varley. I thought when he came in the last day, instead of Adam Gallagher, he gave a very good account of himself, got a lovely score from out on the wing, trademark style of his. And this weekend also you have Mickey Sweeney coming back in. Now he will be hoping to put the good form that he showed with the club Kiltane going to the All-Ireland Intermediate final. He'll be showing to put that into good effect. But no, overall it's a team that I think is a bit stronger again this week than it was last week. Certainly at the back with Donald Vaughan at centre back, I think it is a stronger look to it. But the other guy I think that has been playing particularly well is Jason Gibbons. Surprising the way he was taken off last Sunday. I thought he was playing very well. I'd seen him again in the Interpro over a few weeks, and the guy to me has improved immensely over the last 6 months, or since last year actually, and he started the year very impressively. So I think the team ought to be good enough to beat Westmeath, because Westmeath, they've had a pretty torrid start. They lost by 18 points to 10 to Cork in the first round. And they were beaten by Dublin 14 points to 1-7 in the second. Now, they played well in that. They were competitive in that. And they were very competitive against Dublin in the O'Byrne Cup, I believe. But I just sense that that was in their first two games. I forget the last two who they were playing.
They lost quite heavily to Derry.
Yeah, they lost heavily to Derry, that's correct. But I just sense that we should be able to beat them. They're new to the Premier Division, to the First Division, and I just think we should have too much experience, too much know-how. And hopefully we'll get the 2 points on the road, and with adding it to what we got against Kerry, it'll leave us in a nice position going into the last series of games. I think it's Cork next weekend. Who have we got? Cork, Derry and
Cork, Dublin, Derry.
Cork, Dublin, Derry in that order, yeah. So it'll leave us nicely poised to actually challenge for a National League semi-final berth if we get a win in Mullingar tomorrow.
And it won't be an easy win. I mean, the Dublin game you mentioned there was in Mullingar, and Westmeath pushed Dublin for a lot of that game, and they're a tough dog at home.
Yeah, they are tough at home. I don't think, to be honest about it, Dublin are up to speed yet. I just think there's an element of experimentation about the teams they have put out. But nonetheless, that's not Westmeath's problem. Westmeath competed very, very well against them that day. I suppose the last day there was the blip the last day against Derry maybe might kind of erode their confidence somewhat. But they have a couple of very good players. I think Heslin at midfield, I think, on his day is a superb player.
Yeah.
And they can always call on, I know he's the old chestnut, but they can always call on Desi Dolan to come in. He got a superb goal against Dublin in the National League in the second round, and he's always a threat. And but nonetheless, our experience, the little bit of extra confidence we've got from the last two outings. I was up in Tyrone. I was impressed with the way we played that day. A few chances maybe that we had for goals that we didn't take. We took them last Sunday, and I just think we're improving, and we should be able to get those extra 2 points tomorrow.
Yeah, and there'll be a bit more pressure on Westmeath as well, because if they were to lose 4 games on the bounce, I know Kerry did it last year, they were able to call on some big names to come back in and save them. Westmeath don't have those big names. If you lose 4 games, I mean, you're pretty much gone. Really.
You're pretty much gone. If they lose that, they have the remaining games then against Kildare, I think, Tyrone and Kerry.
Yeah.
And certainly, okay, the Kildare game will be a local derby. It has its own kind of characteristics as such, but I couldn't see them getting much from Tyrone or Kerry. In particular, if Kerry were looking for those extra points as well to actually stay in the top division.
Yeah. And James Horan was speaking after the match last week, and he said, just as you mentioned there, how Mayo took their goal chances against Kerry, which they hadn't necessarily. I know they got 2 goals against Kildare, but I mean they could have had 4 or 5, could have had 4 or 5 against Tyrone as well, had they taken them all.
Right.
But the big difference last week was Freeman and Doherty came into the team. They got the goals. Freeman showed after 30 seconds. He nearly said, this is how it's done, lads.
Yeah, I mean, it was. As much as anything, it was the timing of the goals, I think, that stood to Mayo. I mean, they bookended the half with goals.
Yeah.
And Freeman kind of, he got on the end of a very, very good move and confidently dispatched it. And even, Doherty's goal right on the half-time whistle, again, beautifully taken. But those chances were there, funny enough, against Tyrone, and we didn't take them. We took points instead, or missed the opportunities. And that's one of the encouraging things about the National League so far, is that we are creating goaling chances. We are registering good scores, and basically if we can build on that tomorrow and don't take Westmeath for granted, then we should be able to come out with a good win.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look back to last year, Mayo weren't even making the goal chances really in the league, and everyone's saying Mayo aren't a goal scoring team, and come championship it clicked and straight into it. So it's good to see them in the middle of the league now, are beginning to take those chances ahead of the championship.
And I think maybe one of the things that has stood to Mayo this year, it stood to a lot of the teams, is the actual introduction of the black card. The game has been freed up quite significantly for forwards. I think in the first 3 rounds of the National League in Division 1 there has been cumulatively 91 points more scored in the first 3 rounds of this year's National League by comparison with the first 3 rounds of last year's National League. And in Division 2 is something very close on the same thing. Now, oddly enough, there hasn't been a significant increase in the number of goals scored, but there has been in the number of points scored. And I think that forwards now are able to run unimpeded, which wasn't the case in the past, because if you take a player out of now by blocking his run, basically you risk you run the risk of incurring a black card. So that has freed up things quite significantly, and I think it has made for much more open games, more fluent games, and higher scoring games.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Nearly proof of that is when you see Mayo score 218 against Kildare and didn't win. Kildare got 121 last week against Tyrone and also didn't win.
That's right.
But there was one black card incident in the Mayo match last week that has stood out throughout the week.
That was Andy
Moran's one.
Yeah. Well, my own view, I won't take Andy's thing specifically, but I would just say in general what I have noticed with referees, that they are reluctant to issue black cards. They are issuing yellow cards very often, where a black card maybe is the correct card to administer. That's one of the trends I have noticed, and maybe if I now maybe address Andy's thing specifically, within the actual rules that are laid down, Andy's foul was not a black card offence.
The player had to go to ground.
Exactly. It wasn't a deliberate trip by a hand or foot. It was a pulling of the jersey. And it is interesting, actually, during the week that Paul Early, who was on the Football Review Committee that brought in these new recommendations, or these new rules as they are now, he said during the week that maybe they should be looked at again, and maybe pulling of the jersey should be included or added to the list of misdemeanours that warrants a black card.
Yeah, because in a situation like that, I mean, if the Kerry player had gone down, it would have been a black card by the rules, and it doesn't encourage diving maybe, because they know then if I go with this fella's gone.
I'm not so sure, even if he went down, was he tripped? Maybe in time. Okay, we've only had 3 rounds of the National League. By the end of the National League, I think you will have seen teams and managements get more and more used to the new systems, and you'll see, you might see that. I would hate to see diving coming into the game, as you suggested there, but I just think that maybe it'll take that length of time for the whole issue to settle before we see proper trends in matches.
Yeah, because obviously if we see some of these things happen in the Championship, that's when people are really going to start giving out. They're not so much at the moment because they are saying it's an experiment.
The rules are here to stay. They're not an experiment. They're here forever. They're here, but players and managements are only getting used to what they can do and what they can't do at the moment. Let's wait for the 7 rounds of the National League to be completed and start into the Championship. Let's then kind of maybe adjudicate on the efficacy of the black card and whether or not it will lead to an increase in cynical play from the point of view of players throwing themselves in order to get an opponent sent off.
Yeah, and for the match tomorrow, Martin, how do you see it going?
I think it'll be a win for Mayo. It'll be a big disappointment if we don't win it by 4 or 5 points. I think we're capable of winning it, but I know a good friend, Seamus Brown, is a selector. He's from down the West Mayo direction. He's a selector with Westmeath rather, and I gather that they're quite confident they'll give Mayo their fill of it, but Mayo should win it. They should have too much.
It'll probably be good for Mayo to get a game out of it.
Well, they have got good games so far. They've got 3 very good games so far, 3 very good competitive games, but everything at the moment is just get 2 points on the board at the end of the match, and we'll come home happy.
We will indeed. Martin, thank you very much.
Not a bother, Michael. My pleasure.
The following Castlebar traders wish Castlebar Mitchells every success in the All-Ireland Football Club Championship Final on St Patrick's Day.
Best wishes to Mitchells from CT Electric at the Industrial Estate beside McHale Park for all your electrical needs.
Value Centre Cash and Carry, Castlebar, wishing Mitchells all the best from one winning team to another.
Prendergast Men's and Boys Wear, Main Street, Castlebar, your specialists in school uniforms.
Castlebar Town, standing proud behind Mitchells in the All-Ireland Final.
Joining me in studio now is former Mayo and Donegal footballer and current Connacht Interprovincial selector Martin Kearney. He's here to discuss the recent Interprovincial series. Martin, welcome.
Thanks very much, Michael.
You were involved with the Connacht team that won the Railway Cup this year. How did you get involved?
John Tobin asked me would I get involved with him. I had been involved for the last couple of years, and we saw seeds of something there last year. We lost by a point after a very good match to Leinster in Longford, and when the time to do it again came around this year, he asked me would we give it another go, and I said I'd be delighted to. So we picked more or less roughly the same panel as we had last year. Now there was a number of players maybe weren't in form at the time, or a number were injured, but we got together. There was 6 guys from Mayo and quite a number from Galway. I think 8 altogether. 2 Leitrim lads, 2 or 3 Sligo lads, and the rest, and majority of them actually were from Galway. But first day out against Munster, I mean, we made it very difficult for ourselves. We eventually beat them 3-19 to 2-16, but halfway through the first half, it certainly didn't look as if that was going to happen, because they had got a run on us, and they had 2 corner forwards, a Brian Hurley guy from Cork and a Daniel Golding, caused us awful trouble, But the lads knuckled down. A couple of fellas were exceptional that day. Like Cathal Craig scored a goal and 7 points from play in that match. He was brilliant in it, actually. And some of the scores in particular when we were in bother were particularly, were needed. And on top of that, like Paul Conroy, Emlyn Mulligan played well. But the Mayo contingent, I thought, like Michael Conroy, Aidan O'Shea, Robbie was very good in goals. All of the Mayo lads, I thought, put their shoulders to the wheel. And we deservedly, I thought, won. And it was a very good match. I think there was something like 5 goals and 35 points scored in total. I don't think there was 100 people at the game, Michael, but it was a very good game of football.
Which is unfortunate when you consider that, for all intents and purposes, the word is that it was a brilliant game of football, particularly for the time of year. And, less than 100 at it.
It just doesn't kind of register with the public any longer. It hasn't if we're realistic about it, its heyday was in the 1960s. The Railway Cup has been tried, they've tried to have it in finals abroad. They have tried to have it on, they've had it on Patrick's Day. That was the traditional timing for it. But they've tried all different types of ruses to promote an interest in it. But the public don't seem to be too particularly interested in it. But players, to their eternal credit, give it everything, and the guys that we had available to us played out of their socks in the 2 days, and played very well and deservedly won their first title in 45 years.
Yeah, but it's the players who are the ones that are coming out. I've seen Aidan O'Shea and Emlyn Mulligan in particular, and Robbie Henley as well, saying that they wanted to play in this. This is a tournament that they wanted to play and wanted to win. They were happy, they were delighted to represent Connacht.
Well, that's the thing, and I mean, I would have contacted 3 or 4 other Mayo lads who were having a little bit of difficulties with injury, but they were very, very keen to play. Had they been fit and had they been free from injury, likes the Lee Keegan, Colin Boyle, Andy Moore, those guys would have played. They were, as Shamie O'Shea, mad keen to play. But I've never seen anything other than total commitment from the point of view of the players. It's just one of those tournaments that doesn't seem to grab the public attention. And when you look at it, Michael, any year there are 3 national titles up for grabs. There is the Sam Maguire, there's the National League, and there's the Interprovincial. Yeah. And basically, you would think for something with that kind of, shall we say, weight, that maybe it would attract a greater audience, but unfortunately it doesn't.
Do you think maybe it was, not to knock the club championship or anything, but when they decided to put the club championship finals on St. Patrick's Day, was that really the beginning of the end for the Railway Cup?
Yeah, I suppose the two, like when you look at the club championships, started around 1969, 1970, late 60s. And funny enough, that coincided with the demise of the public interest in the Interpros. And I'm just trying to cast my mind back, but if you go back to the early mid-70s, I remember that club championships and Railway Cups were on the St. Patrick's Day weekend. We'd say on the 16th you would have the hurling final club and the football Interpro, and then on the following day you would have the football club final and the hurling Interpro final. And that's the way they had it for quite a few years. But for whatever reason, I'm repeating myself, I know, but the public don't seem to have any great interest in following it. But the great thing about Connacht winning it put an end to the joke that was going around for years: who was the last Mayo man to win a Railway Cup medal? And of course it was Pádraig Brogan when he won one with Ulster.
I was going to say.
1991. Many's a table quiz and that kind of question in it. But it's lovely to see 6 Mayo guys kind of being successful and having a Railway Cup. Cup medal.
And it's actually even better when you look at lads like Emlyn Mulligan and David Kelly, who, with the likes of Leitrim and Sligo, they may never win real national trophies. For them, this is a big achievement.
Well, look at, if you were to take the final against Ulster, David Kelly's goal at the end of the game sealed the deal as far as we were concerned. Emlyn Mulligan was very effective both days. Mark Breheny, who came on late as a sub in the final against Ulster, he has never he has been there always for us since we first kind of got involved, maybe about 10 years ago. I've been involved off and on for the last 10 years, but he was always available for selection when asked, and for him it was always a great honour. And you also had on that, you had Neil Ewing and Gary Reynolds from Leitrim, and the star guy for me, if you were to have that over the two games, I would have said is Cathal Craig. I thought Cathal Craig from Roscommon was magnificent over the two games. But the overall, I suppose, the collective effort that was put in by the players, that's ultimately what got us over the line.
Yeah, and it was great to see Aidan O'Shea, a Mayo man, captaining the team, and I've heard a lot of people saying hopefully it's only the first bit of silverware he lifts this year.
Well, please God, it will be the first piece of silverware he'll lift. But the interesting thing about it is we beat Ulster, and in beating Ulster, it was the highest score ever registered by a winning team since 1980. And in fact, I haven't looked at the records before that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the highest score ever in a Railway Cup final. And by a winning team rather. And the second thing, I think, is the biggest beating Ulster have ever got. And Ulster are the one province who year in, year out put everything, their heart and soul into it. Like Joe Kernan and Tony Scullion were involved with them this year, and they were very disheartened actually at the performance they got out of themselves in the final, because the previous Sunday had good wins, had a very good win over Leinster and Navan.
Yeah, and as you say, Ulster are kind of the kingpins in more recent years of the interprovincial series. And I heard Aaron Kernan on the radio recently saying for the 2 weeks or so that he would be involved with Ulster, it was treated as their team. They kind of forget about the club, forget about the county for these 2 weeks, and they put it all in, and it really showed over the last few years with Ulster.
Yeah, well, they won it in 2012 and 2013. Again, in answer to your earlier question about the lack of interest, there was no competition in 2010 and 2011 for one reason or another, and Ulster won the previous one before that in 2009. But looking at the record book, they have been the kingpins of Railway Cup football since probably the early 1980s. And I know from playing with Ulster myself, going away back into the 70s, it was nearly the pinnacle of our year's football to get playing against teams in Leinster and Munster whose players were winning All-Irelands. Like, there was no success or any history of success in Ulster at the time in the 1970s and in the 1980s in terms of winning All-Irelands. So you look forward to the opportunity every spring to get playing against players who were winning All-Ireland medals, just to see how well you could do against them. And maybe that's where the guy in charge, the two guys that were in charge of Ulster at the time, there was a man called Paddy O'Hara, who was a very famous Antrim footballer of the 1950s and one of the most iconic figures ever in Gaelic football, put huge effort into it at the time also. He was a man who was at full forward in the team of the century, Sean O'Neill of Down. And then after he kind of stepped aside, Brian McAniff took it over, and for Brian it was just, it still is a passion, because I know he was down in Tuam the last weekend to witness the final.
Yeah, and just finally on this, is it a shock to you that it's taken 45 years for Connacht to win it?
It is. Connacht hasn't been in too many finals. In the late 90s, they were in 3 finals in a row, 99, 2000 and 2001, and since then they have been in 3, and in some of the finals they lost narrowly enough, but when you consider that in that period you had Galway winning All-Irelands, in kind of in 1998 and 2001, you had in the 1980s very, very strong Roscommon teams, and it is a surprise in many respects that there wasn't actually a greater showing by Connacht. But look at, please God, what we did last weekend or the weekend before last might kind of start a trend for Connacht to start winning a few of them.
Well, with a bit of luck now, hopefully they might take over from Ulster as the kingpin, so to speak. Martin, thanks very much and congratulations on the trophy.
Thanks very much, Michael.